What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the BREWtally Speaking Podcast, the official podcast of MetalNexus.net, where you can get all your concert photos, show reviews, and so much more. And with me, as always, is Daniel Terry. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I managed to have a night at home alone. Well, kind of home alone. My kids are all asleep, but it's like being home alone.
Yeah, basically. So that crippling fear of responsibility comes in when one of them potentially makes a thudding noise when you're downstairs.
I'm not really worried about that.
I guess it's like that commercial is really true. Your first child, you're all like worried about everything. By like your second or third, you're like, they'll live.
Yeah, dude, totally. Like, and if you could illustrate that, I think there was a meme where a mom is like has her first kid wrapped up in bubble wrap.
Yeah.
And by like kid number 2 or 3, she's just like dragging them behind him by their hair. You know?
Yeah. So this episode's guest is Nick Biggie Grimaldi. I guess this really isn't that much of a surprise to have Biggie on the podcast. Obviously, being a huge E-Tid fan, I've been very aware of Biggie for a long time from the Shit Happens DVDs. Actually, he on the I think it's the Party Poopers DVD from the Big Dirty bonus DVD. They did a dodgeball tournament for Paul Frank and the clothing company from back in the day, and a bunch of bands were playing dodgeball. I think like Bleeding Through was on there and a handful of others, and they also had bands playing, and E-Tid was playing. And at one point, and it's always my favorite thing to just be it so just encapsulates the like, who gives a fuck kind of thing that I wish more people had seen the DVD, because I sometimes will use this, where he's like, the kids have spoken and they want more to eat it. He goes, fuck that, no one gives a fuck about the bands, they just want free food and free shit.
No doubt.
And it's always been one of those things, like, I've always thoroughly enjoyed that. Plus his appearance in the Shit Happens DVD of the Pass Out game. Did you ever play that in your youth?
No, definitely not.
Do you know what the Pass Out game is?
No.
Okay.
Is it where you stuff so much shit in your mouth that you can't breathe?
No, that's G.G. Allen.
Oh, my bad.
It's very amusing, also scary, but it was fun watching it on that DVD from over a decade ago. It's almost like the Pantera. I feel like the Shit Happens DVD is like the Pantera home videos for like hardcore kids.
Yeah, very very similar vibe, where it's like, we're just gonna record a whole bunch of random shit and you're gonna love it.
I just don't think people can do that anymore. I think that's half of it. Like, you can't. Like, I think about like CKY. Like, I have the original CKY like when it first came out. And it's like, so much of it is like just as it was. And I think a lot of it over the years has been like re-edited to like cut out things or blur out stuff. And it's like, man, it was kind of the fun of my youth. It's just like how freeing everything was. Like, you could just be an asshole or be a dickhead to people, and it's like within reason. Like, it was fine.
Yeah, I think things have definitely changed as far as what people think are acceptable forms of entertainment, and people just being young people and doing crazy shit just for whatever reason rubs people the wrong way.
Yeah, everyone forgets that we were all youth at some point.
Dude, no joke. Like, I'll be sitting there watching TV with my wife, and like, I'll hear something outside, and I'll go look out the window, and it's like, I'm definitely the old man now that like looks at it, and I'm like, oh god, there's 4 teenagers walking down the street. Fuck, oh man, I better have locked all my car doors. Like,
all of that aside, though, Biggie is someone that I've wanted to get on the podcast for a while. He, like I said, is basically a partner over at Good Fight Entertainment, management company. Manages such bands as Every Time I Die, Circa Survive, little band you might have heard of called Knocked Loose, Turnstile. List goes on and on and on. And I think he's a pretty inspiring dude. Like, if you follow him on Instagram, it's like, he is working out constantly. His family works out with themselves. Like, there'll be times where he'll be doing like a gym session in his garage, and his like daughter is like doing stuff, and you're just like, starting them young on your CrossFit lifestyle.
Yeah, I can't relate, like, even a little bit. That's a little rough for me, but no, I think it's cool, absolutely, and I think that, dude is so active and has done so many things. I thought it was really interesting, the stuff you guys were talking about how he wasn't basically able to leave, or was it that he wasn't able to enter Canada?
Yeah, he couldn't get into Canada because he kept sneaking in from different vantage points. He actually just posted a thing where he was at, I think it's called Angel's Peak. It's like a mountainous area or whatever. I forget where exactly it is, probably in California. But he was making a post and it was like him on one side and then you could see like the canyon on the other side or whatever. And I go, trying to sneak into Canada like.
I just imagine him dressed up like a bank robber or something, like a prison inmate with like the black and white stripes and like sneaking under the fence to Canada.
Literally lifting up a non-existent fence to get into Canada, like it was an imaginary border.
Totally.
Yeah, no, but this was a lot of fun. I mean, obviously, if you've listened to this podcast, we're almost 200 episodes in. We like to kind of spotlight some behind-the-scenes people, and I think Biggie kind of represents a side of the industry that we haven't really had on. We've had producers on, we've had publicists on, we've had producers on, but I don't think we've had a legit manager or artist manager on. And so, something that I think has been kind of fun in the journey of this podcast is to kind of highlight these areas of the music industry that maybe people like you and I who aren't musically inclined can find other avenues to get into the music industry that if you're that passionate about it. And I think Biggie kind of shows a really good example of someone who just kind of, I'm not going to say fell into these things, but it was just kind of like when more opportunities presented themselves, he just took them on because it was almost like a lack of responsibility, and I want to keep doing this thing and hanging with my friends on the road. And I mean, you look at a friend like a friend of the show and my friend Frank Finelli, who actually just resurrected The World We Knew, and basically like his last show, he said like he did his last show, had signed on to tour managed Bam Margera, and went to play his last show, caught a flight to go back to start TMing and making more money than he ever did being in a band. And I think, there's a lot of stories like that where people shift the perspective of what it is that they're into. And I think those that are passionate about music and are really serious about finding a career in it will be able to do that and understand that maybe it's not being on the stage in front of the people, but there's plenty of ancillary things that you can do behind the scenes and still have a very wildly successful career in the industry.
No, totally. Like he's definitely accomplished quite a bit, and I like the parallels kind of between what we do and what people like him have done. In that there's so much hustle, there's so much like having to just be on 24/7 that takes place because you can't miss an opportunity. You can't really call in sick either. Like it's rough, and probably more rough for him than it is for us who sit here comfortably in our houses and do this. But I definitely spend way more time worrying about like podcast stuff than I should when I'm not at home.
And speaking of missed opportunities, let's not miss the opportunity to jump into our conversation with Biggie, and we will talk to you guys afterwards. Well, I just didn't. I just have learned in doing these things, like, sometimes you say something and then someone comes back and they're like, you can't, like, that's not how you were supposed to say it, and it's got me in trouble, and you're like, okay, I didn't realize that there was that big of a fucking deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm guilty of it too. I partner with all my bands. I have some sort of partner in it, whether it's technically a day-to-day manager or someone who does the majority of the work. I've just learned to just call everyone a partner on the band, because
Fair
then
enough.
I'm never in trouble. I never want someone to like come out and be, dude, like you kind of made me sound like I was just this. And that's how. And when I was brought up, I was always referred to as a partner. Even when I was like just a dude booking flights and doing budgets, my boss at the time would just be like, "Oh, it's my partner on the band." So when I would get introduced to like the bigger people in the world, I wasn't looked at as just a guy that like booked flights, because once you're kind of looked at as a quote unquote day to day or any kind of like assistant vibe,
right,
it's pretty hard to come back from that. Even if it's been like, dude, it's been 15 years. I'm not just like this day to day guy anymore. So when I introduce everyone's like, this is my partner, and like make it very clear that they're not just somebody who like helps me with the band, even if technically that's their role. That's just not how I want anyone viewed.
Fair enough. Well, I guess I'm going to keep that in, and this will be just a great introduction. It's been a long time coming that I've wanted to have you on this podcast, but we are talking to Nick Grimaldi, a.k.a. Biggie, partner, whatever, of Good Fight Entertainment, also band manager for bands that you might know, Every Time I Die, Circa Survive, BT Bam, Knock Loose, for some of the younger kids that may be listening to this. And first of all, thanks for coming on. I know you are insanely busy between running a successful business and jiu-jitsu and podcasting and somewhere squeezing in a family life as well.
Yeah, I like to stay very, very, very busy. It just makes my I don't know what's that quote about idle hands, but I don't like sitting around. So I try to fit into fitness and the family and all that jazz and make sure all the band's careers are still going up along the way.
Kind of speaking, to just staying busy, I know, listening to a couple of the podcasts and so forth that you've done over the years, you kind of talked about how you were always like a good student and so forth, but something and correct me if I'm wrong, I've not really heard you say this, but like, I understand you were more goal-oriented just so you could kind of fuck off, or what I have kind of referred to, because I do this too, and I call it effective laziness. Like, I get all my work done ahead of time so I can be lazy. And it kind of has made me wonder, were you always a very goal-oriented person growing up?
Well, in my early years, I was very much just obsessed with skateboarding. So that's kind of, whether I knew it or not, like, that's just a bunch of little goals, like learning new tricks and all that jazz. It's just a bunch of little goals to try to understand and meet and work towards, And then later in life, yeah, like, not to overuse the term hustler, but I was very much always trying to scam this or hustle that or on to the next. Like, I was very busy from the get-go, whether I was touring while still in college. I toured and went to college the whole time. The whole time I was in college, I would tour the whole summer and winter break and spring break because I was going to school with my friends in the bands, like Throwdown and 18 Visions. Like, we would literally plan touring around our stupid college schedules, even though none of us really had a plan with college. It was just kind of like a few of us had to be in college to make sure our parents didn't hate us, So even while in school doing the college thing, I was touring, and then while I was on tour, I would, it's not like I was making money at first on tour, so I was trying to figure out ways to like make a straight edge T-shirt and sell it while I was on the road, or just always trying to figure out a way to make a buck to not have a normal job. I've really only had one normal job my whole life, and it was when I worked at the mall for 6 months when I was like 19. So there's always been some sort of hustle in my game pretty early on.
What exactly were you going to school for? I mean, I think I heard that you had graduated, but like just kind of going back after the fact and graduating.
Yeah, so it all comes back to touring, really. My mom, who I was very close with, a single mom, I did really, really good in school when I was young. And at 18, I had no idea what I quote unquote wanted to be or anything like that when it came time to like pick a major or anything. And so my mom's rule was, she's like, you can do whatever you want. You can not have a curfew. You can not pay rent. You can go on tour when your bands are inviting you out, as long as you're in college. So that was like my way, my hustle. I'm like, okay, well, if I don't have to like pay rent or anything, and all I got to do is go to school, I bet I can figure out a way to do this. So long story short, we just started going to like the community college around here and fulfilling general AA requirements with still no idea what we wanted to do for 2 years while touring and going to school. And then when it came time of like, hey, you have your AA, you really got to like pick a major and like figure out what you're going to do. My good friend Dave Peters from Throwdown literally just looked at the like curriculums and said, okay, well, with what we've taken for our AA, the most boxes checked over for your major is communications. Like, we can transfer over the most classes we already have into communications. That's what we did. We went into communications just because we were furthest along. We were like, okay, well, then all we need is like 2 solid years of college at the state level, and we're done and with communications. So there's never a time where I wanted to get into like public relations, which is where my emphasis in communications is. But it was getting me the college degree, which was allowing me to live rent free at my mom's house while I was touring.
Right. No, it's kind of funny because I wasn't sure if at any point given the fact, and I know like so early on you're kind of doing in nothing taking away from what you've done, but I'm just saying at that point you're probably doing kind of like bullshit tours sort of, and like the responsibilities on you as a young person are not as much as like my wife and I were just talking the other day. God, I wish I was fucking like 21, 22 again when I would sweat about having to pay like a total of like maybe $600 for all of my bills. And you're like,
Totally.
Now that's like my car payment and not even a quarter of my rent, and then I still have more money I have to come up with for bills and shit. So, just kind of thinking back to that era being young. But with that being said, I didn't know if maybe at some point you were kind of like, maybe I should kind of go into like business, or I should learn, business classes and so forth, and try to have that help what I'm kind of doing now. I didn't know if you had the foresight to kind of see that far ahead.
No, that was all accidental. Like we, mentioning bills and all that jazz. Like the secret of me never falling behind financially is because, like I said, I had no rent to pay, and so while I was touring heavily, just living at home, I was gone 8-9 months a year when I was at my busiest. I got to just pocket all the money I made. So I started with the savings. And in terms of business, I just learned it on the road. There was never a time where I was going to be the tour manager. I was just a guy who sold T-shirts, and as bands got bigger and more cooks got in the kitchen that needed the band, whether it was a publicist or a label or whatever, I just dealt with them. And I was lucky that I had my friends willing to let me learn along the way. They were learning, we were learning, they were learning, I was learning, so we were just kind of learning together, and it turned into being like quasi-legit, going on tour internationally with tons of bands for 10 years until I decided to stop touring.
Two things to that, as you're kind of working your way up in the ranks of, in this band world, do you have a memory of where, I guess maybe your lack of experience or everyone's lack of experience caused a real shit situation that you kind of had to work your way out of?
There's a million. A big one that's still something I'm kind of dealing with. We used to not understand the gravity of going into Canada. We would just we're just kids, like, yeah, let's go, who cares? Not understanding when you go to the border, it's like serious business, and like they're trying to figure out ways to not let you in a lot of the times, being like 8 smelly, stinky, tattooed guys in a van crossing the border at 2 a.m. with not the correct paperwork, just inexperienced on that level. And there were times where we would have too much money on us, and that's not like a titanic amount of money. It's just after a certain amount you have to like claim it. We would not claim it, and to them, if you don't claim it on the up front, it seems like you're lying. And we've been kicked out of Canada. I'm personally still banned from Canada from legal problems and trying to go like, and not understanding that if I go, okay, well, they've told me no in Buffalo, I'm just going to drive around to Detroit and try to get in there, and have them be like, hey, dum-dum, like, we saw you trying to get into Buffalo, you still can't cross here. And they'll be like, okay, well, I'm just going to fly in then. I would fly and land and have them get to customs and be like, hey, you're an idiot. You're banned from this country now from trying to get in over and over and over. And I had to sit with the marshal and get flown back. Like, it's the amount of problems and naivety that we experience is it's pretty remarkable that nobody got seriously hurt or put in jail for a lengthy period of time. I technically don't think I am anymore, because after 10 years of any like arrest situation, I believe you're rehabilitated, quote unquote. I'm actually looking into that now, but for the entirety of my touring career, I couldn't go. I went to Canada one time on a big like Alexis on Fire, Every Time I Die, like cross country, huge tour. That was amazing. But besides that, I was banned, and I would, depending on where it was, if we were crossing in Buffalo, I would just live in Buffalo for a few days, or Detroit, or Seattle. I had people that would let me stay in those respective cities while the band went in without a tour manager, and then they would pick me up on the way out. It was a mess.
That's funny. So a lot of my work history deals with either food or retail management. So dealing with a lot of different kinds of personalities, trying to find, scheduling the right people at the right times, identifying who is more valuable where to me and so forth. And I feel like some of those things definitely obviously apply to what you do, because you have to be good at people reading and all that kind of stuff. Something, though, that in kind of preparing for this interview that I was kind of thinking of, and I think it was just because I just saw these guys on the Disruptor a couple of days ago, thinking about, seeing Circa Survive and the things that Anthony Green was going through over the last or a couple of years ago at this point. I'm not really going to necessarily get into it. It does make me wonder when you're going through something like that, because something that I've found commendable with your story that you've told numerous times is how you are friends with almost every single person that you have on your roster. It's not a business thing per se. It's more of a, these are my friends, and, you know, we're all just kind of happy and lucky to be here. And I know that Circa Survive was kind of a band that, you know, wasn't necessarily in that fold, but has become such. And so in light of all of that, it does kind of make me wonder if the successes that the band has had now recently, in light of those things, kind of makes those successes even bigger because of everything that, you know, it took to get there. And then adversely, it makes me wonder, like, when you go through something like that, how tough is it to kind of compartmentalize business and personal relationships at that point?
Yeah, it's the ultimate blessing and a curse working with your friends. You know, it's the coolest thing in the world 98% of the time, but shit goes wrong. I mean, the world of band management, it's insane. It's a traveling circus. There's a billion things to keep track of and plan for and anticipate, and, you know, things go wrong. I fuck up, and band members fuck up, and my staff fucks up, and labels fuck up, and all those people I just mentioned are all friends. You know, it's not like I'm besides the bands, like 9 times out of 10 they're signed to a label that I'm friends with. 10 times out of 10 they're booked by an agent that I'm friends with, like actual friends, not just like, hey, you're a cool person that we happen to work with, like someone I hang out with outside of work. So when the label fucks up, or when the agent fucks up, or when I fuck up, or when my staff fucks up, it's just like, ugh, like you have to have the uncomfortable work fight, and it's with your friend. So it sucks when it happens, or, you know, God forbid you quit a band or get fired. Like it's very rough, or fire an agent, or leave a label. Like it's brutal. So on that front, it's, you know, that's the bummer, 2%. And the other side, it's amazing otherwise. It's not just when I see any of my bands having a huge show, I'm not like, cool, we made money. I'm just like, dude, here are my friends that are passionate about what they're doing, leaving their families, devoting their whole life to this, and thousands of people are caring. That is like the best feeling in the world. And it's not the money. It's like seeing your friends succeed, you know? And I've gotten so close with some of these bands and band members that I take it extremely personally when something doesn't go right, or when it does go well, and not like in a credit way. I don't need the credit. It just makes me happy. When I was at a show last night, Stick to Your Guns and Terror, that sold out an 800 cap room in LA, which isn't the biggest thing in the world, but it's like a bunch of hardcore bands selling out a room in 2019. It just makes me feel great to have any, you know, any involvement in all those good vibe bands, from big to small. It just makes me really happy. And at this point in my life and career, that's what gets me stoked. I get way more stoked off accomplishments for the bands or for my other managers or whatever it is than like back when I started, just like worrying about like the money and like the like perception of the band. You know, it's more like the personal accomplishments, whether it's from me, my staff, the bands, if that makes sense. And I don't even know if I answered your question, to be honest.
I mean, no, I mean, you did. I mean, it was just kind of one of those things, like, I guess, for me, I guess to kind of maybe give an example of kind of what I was trying to go for with, like, the Anthony Green thing, I guess. So, like, I remember getting this person, they were coming in for, like, we were starting to open this restaurant, we needed to hire people, but, like, we just weren't getting people, like, because they're all college kids and they don't give a shit, and their availability sucks. So I had this one dude, and, like, my owners were like, this dude just got out of jail, like, hell no, you're not hiring him. And I was like, but I feel like this is the guy that's like, he walks here every day. He lives like 5 miles away. He walks here every day asking, like, you know, do you need help? Like, whatever. Like, I'm here. Like, he's showing up more than people who already have a job are. And I was like, and I feel like this is just the person that, like, you just need to give them that opportunity again. And this dude's going to kill it because, like, he wants to prove that he, like, isn't his mistake. And the dude did. And he was like a fucking all-star. Like, it was awesome for me. And unfortunately, we just couldn't give him the hours that he needed. So, like, I walked over to, like, next door and got him a job that had more hours next door. And, like, he quickly became, like, a manager over there and so forth. But it was one of those things that because of sort of the label, the stigma that I guess he kind of had attached to him, that, like, people didn't want to give him the opportunity. And so, therefore, it just kind of, I was thinking about that and kind of thinking about, like, when kind of working, I guess Circa Survive as an entity doesn't necessarily have that stigma, but obviously Anthony has had problems in the past, and it makes me wonder, like, does that make you trepidatious in working with them? But then as a result, where maybe other people were like, maybe don't work with them. Where when you, like, I saw like a post you made a while back where you guys played Red Rocks, and it's like, does that success, because you took the gamble on the person and the successes of that, does it feel better because it's like, I saw something in this person that nobody else really wanted to or didn't believe was going to pay off the way I knew it would, and so therefore it's more rewarding at that point.
Right.
And I don't know if that makes any sense what I'm saying.
No, with Circa, it's not like it's interesting because I came in right as Anthony got clean. Like that was part of, I think, why it all happened. He was like kind of on like a fresh start kick, and it was like new management, new label, new booking agent. It all kind of like clean slated for him. So honestly, opposite. I think they, if anything, took a risk on me. I mean, they're a pretty damn sizable band. They're my biggest band, and I'm not the guy that like has enough power to say like, oh, you guys want this huge festival? Let me just call my friend. Like, I do great by my bands and like with my network I get by, but I'm not the biggest guy out there. They could have found a bigger manager. I think it was more like a vibe thing that he felt from the start, and in terms of like his stigma, he's the reason. I guess how am I going to put it? Like he's the most infectious person I've ever met in terms of like, if you sit in a room with him and hear what he has to say, it's pretty hard not to buy into it. Not that he's selling a bad bill of goods, but if anything, if I was trepidatious, which I wasn't, I was like dead set on trying to get the band, like before even understanding how much I would like them personally. He could sell anything to anyone. He's very good and passionate. It just bleeds through. Like he cares so much about everything, whether it's his, bandmates, music, family. It's just very obvious when you can tell someone people are in it for different reasons. Some people just want to create whatever, and some people want to make money or whatever, and all those are fine. And then there's some people that have to do it. He has to do this. He will never stop creating. If anything, we have to throttle him for playing too much, writing too much, wanting to do too much just because he has so much going on. I mean, I think he's just an excess dude. When he fell down the spell he went down with, his personal life, it was bad because he goes hard on everything. I mean, the fucker has 4 kids. If he's doing it, he's doing it a lot. So yeah, he's an interesting person to work for, and extremely infectious is like the easiest way I can explain it. Anyone that works for or with him, you kind of just want to kill it for him because he's super appreciative, probably the more so than any client I have. I'll get the random like, hey, so I know shit's crazy and I really appreciate what you're doing. Simple little things like that don't happen from a lot of people, and he does it all the time. So he's very appreciative and just makes you want to work hard for him across the board. There's always just like a little kind of pep in your step. Not that I don't work hard for everyone I work for, I like to think, but when you get him on the phone and he starts firing you up, there just seems to be like a moment where you just want to like make sure you get everything he wants done.
Absolutely. Just like I said, something I was kind of thinking about in conjunction to like my management experiences and so forth, and just kind of thinking about that. Kind of looking at your roster, I mean, you have, I'll call them a legacy act between, Terror and Every Time I Die and so forth. But then you also have like a younger band like Knock Loose, and dealing with a lot of the labels and people that you do, and how long you've kind of done a career that's spanned across multiple positions. It's kind of made me wonder if anyone's ever approached you to do like A&R work ever.
Not necessarily. I've always told everyone how like linear my brain is in terms of I'm never the guy that's like, hey, I saw this band play first and they're going to be the next big thing. I've been fortunate enough to have people come and tell me that, like I've had people say like, hey, this band's going to be this, or these guys just lost a manager. I know you'd be perfect for it. So I think I excel on the more, planning, or I know I excel on the more planning and business side. And when I hear like people that I think are real A&R people go and like talk about that, it's just another, like, it's like watching a drummer go crazy. It's like I couldn't play the drums, just like I can't hear what you're hearing in these songs as it is right now. And I think that's important for anyone in the world to know their strengths. And like, ideally, maybe as a manager, I would be that guy that could sit behind the desk and say like, hey, we got to come back to the chorus for this and that, you know. But that's not me. I trust in the bands. I trust in the engineers. I believe if you hire someone, they're better at it than what you do, or better at it than you are at, you know. So I stick to my strengths and hire out for my weaknesses, and that goes from hiring a social media person to hiring, you know, someone to write the songs to hiring a label to put out the record. And that's just not my strong point, nor would I like necessarily enjoy. Like, I love getting a new record, but I love it when it's like, hey, here are the demos, and then like here's some demos, and I'm like, cool, like I can hear the songs. It's not like I don't understand music. It's great, but I can't wait to hear the finished product, you know. And as the deepest I get onto that is, you know, having a say in the singles, essentially. You know, like I made a big push, you mentioned Every Time I Die. Their last song on this record, Map Change, is my favorite song they've ever done, and it's kind of a different song for them, and it wasn't being discussed initially as being like the quote unquote single, and I was one being like, dude, this song is like too good to just have be on the end of the record, and we ended up, you know, making a video for it that was a phenomenal video, and now it's like it's kind of their hit. They play it last at the shows, and it's this like big thing, and it's not because I said, hey, we need a video for that, but that's about as big as as deep as I'll go. If I'm seeing like a red flag, like, hey, this song is like really, really, really good, and we aren't doing enough with it, I think we should. That's like about as like far into that process I'll go. I'd rather like have the bands and labels say, these are the strong songs we see, and most of the time I just go, yeah, you're right. But every once in a while I gotta say, hey, I think this. You know, that's an example that came in my head where like I get in the mix on like that front more so than I usually do.
It's really been interesting to see, just kind of touching on Map Change, like just seeing how that's really just sparked. Because I would say, like, you would almost say, like, it was like the more, I guess, of that record of the Low Teens. But it was weird because it's like when seeing them as much as I have, I remember them like playing more kind of in the beginning, in the middle, then it was kind of their closer, and I was like, oh, that's a great closer. Like, that'll be probably be the closer for like the rest of their tenure. And then here we are a record later, and I was like, nope, it's Map Change. And now it's like, I don't even know if you need more in the set anymore, because it's like you have that song now that like does that for them.
Totally. Yeah, I agree. They're a funny one. Every time I get in, every time I record, I'm like, all right, this is for sure the best one, and they can't top it. And then they do. Every time I say that, and it's not just I'm a manager, but whatever. I'm a fan that like evolves with them. But yeah, I'm in that spot again now where I'm just like, I don't know if they're topping Map Change, but we'll see. I bet they do. They proved me wrong a bunch of times.
Well, it's like I was just talking with, we just dropped our episode with Will Putney the other day, and was talking about how, like, between him and Knock Loose, like, two of your clients on your roster, about how, like, he just seems to have this knack for, like, putting out records with bands that give them stupidly long touring cycles.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we I don't want to say fell victim, but got in the habit of putting out a record every couple of years with Every Time I Die. And then on this one, where we're just like, let's just see what happens. You know, we don't necessarily need to. Fans aren't clamoring for full albums anyway at most of the time. You know, a band from the 90s, it's hard to get them off of their past like that. But with this one, we just sat back and seen what happens, and it's been amazing. We just did our biggest tour we've ever done, both headlining and as a support band, you know, a couple of years into the cycle. And we're still, the album's not written, you know. We don't have studio time booked, so we'll see how long we run it for, but I would assume, you know, getting about that time. But for us, we were 2 years, go, you know, churn them out and go. We would do the even Warped tours, release a new record on it, and that was our thing, you know. And then Warped Tour went away, and we're kind of like, maybe we just pump the brakes then.
You know, you kind of hit on something earlier that I actually had written down. I don't know how, I mean, especially with Andy being a close friend of yours, how often you follow wrestling or how closely you follow it at all.
I used to be obsessed with it when I was a kid, like WWF days, but I've fallen off majorly. My only thing I watch now are basically what Andy posts and what Brody King posts, just because those are my friends, you know?
Okay, right. But I was going to say, what's interesting to me right now is like the indies are thriving in a way that we've never really seen, especially with, you know, the WWE's long tenured reign over everything. But you know, I kind of was thinking about how, you know, we're about a week removed now from the Ghost Inside playing to like what, 10,000 people
Yeah.
for their own show. Have Heart reunited, played in front of thousands of people. Every Time I Die sold out a 3,000 cap room a year in advance with only their name attached to it. We're in this
Yeah.
interesting phase where the underground, I'll just say hardcore and metal or whatever, but is kind of having this big resurgence. Like, look at Slayer on this, what, seventh leg of a, of a farewell tour, and like everything, like playing sheds and so forth. And it's like, it just seems like we're having this moment right now for heavy music. Kind of makes me want to know, like, does it feel like that to you when you're kind of looking at everything from your perspective?
Yeah, it really does. You know, it doesn't necessarily change anything in terms of how I manage and plan for bands. I still that picture you painted is wonderful and it's great, but there's also the other side of the coin where there's like a lot of bands touring too much and underperforming because they got to live off the band, and there's only so many times you can go around on an album and all that. So while that exists, and for sure when like the stars align with reunions and comeback shows and festivals and all that jazz, it's amazing. But a lot of the time, it's not like that, you know? So on one hand, I think heavy music is in like this wonderful place. I'm watching it, across the board. I still don't try to get too ahead of myself and remember what kind of causes bubbles to burst with over touring and trying to sleep promoters and labels with overpayments and all that jazz, and just try to do what I do and be fair and make strategic choices and keep the bands going along.
So since we like to have various people, and I like to have people that are more behind the scenes, in case people stumble across this and maybe they're like, oh, I didn't know that, I can't play an instrument, I can't sing, I can't do dick, but like maybe I can get into something I'm passionate about in the music industry, and here are ancillary avenues. So with all that being said, as someone who has exactly done those things to be where you are now, what is something that you feel has set yourself apart from everybody else that maybe had the same opportunities you did, but wasn't able to capitalize on them?
I don't know. I mean, my opportunities, I haven't met a ton of people that like had these opportunities. I was the circumstance of right place, right time a lot of the time. And I'm not, I'm not a believer of like lucky per se. And I believe that like I put myself in a position to capitalize when those opportunities come up, and make sure that when the phone rings, I'm there, and literally and figuratively. But I don't know, a ton of people have the same come up I do, of like straight up 10 years of touring, not in a band, and then move straight into artist management. But overall, I just think my strong suit, like I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I'm not the best manager in the world. I'm not the best manager at Good Fight, in my opinion, just straight up, And I'm a very good at communication. I'm a generally positive person that doesn't get mad and doesn't, buckle under pressure at all. I can handle a lot of pressure. And I just think in the long run, that's what most people want to be around. If somebody wants the guy that flies off the handle because like their name's not big enough on the marquee, like that's just not me. And I've cultivated this roster, clientele, whatever, employees / partners, everything that understand that and vibe with that as well. So, as ironic as it is how much I always joke about never needing my college degree, I think communication and my general personality is my strong suit, 100%. Every day I'm hiring or learning or trying to figure out like what's the new thing that I don't know how to do as well as someone else. But I can always talk, converse, strategize with the best of them, and so much of this, especially as bands get older, is exactly that, massaging everybody's needs, 5 different people in a band with sometimes 5 different agendas and 5 different needs financially or whatever. Like it's hard to get everybody on the same page to do what they want to do. And it takes talking to certain people a certain way. Even if it just means hearing them out before we decide what we're ultimately going to decide, that some people just want to be heard, and I just think communication is the most paramount thing in life in general, whether it's you're with your wife or your clients or your bands or your kids. Like, it's all about communication, and I'm really good at that. That's one thing, like, I can confidently say. So I think for me, my strong suit's communication, and that bleeds over with the success in management, other business stuff.
Man, you just reminded me of something else I've been hitting on quite a bit on the show, which is just finding balance between personal life and work life, especially with your spouse. But I mean, that's probably a whole nother 45 minutes right there, easily.
It is, but it's crucial, man. It is so crucial. I've been on both sides of it where I wasn't working hard enough, and I've been on the other side where I was working way too much, and it's the balance and finding the balance, and it's just. All it really is understanding how much time there is and what gets cut out. For me, like, television just got cut out. I realized if I want to work out a couple hours a day and be with my kids a few hours a day and be with my wife, somewhere in there, and then obviously working at kind of all hours of the day, at least being available. I don't want to paint the picture like I just sit in front of my computer all the time, but if you can ask any of my band members, if they call, I answer. It does not matter the hour, and sometimes, I get the look from the wife of, like, it's 6:30 and we're feeding the kids. Like, what's going on? It's like, oh, this is the downside of it for you, but not that she cares. She gets it. She's an entrepreneur herself. But to me, you cut out the stuff that doesn't matter, and unfortunately, the thing that people don't like to hear a lot of, TV and video games, do not matter. So if you don't have time for working out, if you don't have time to finish your work, if you don't have time to, do whatever it is everyone claims they don't have time for, look at the 2, 3, 4, 5, who knows, hours a day you're looking at a TV screen, and you can probably find some time.
Right, absolutely. Last question before I have you plug your socials and so forth is, I know obviously your career has probably spurned a lot of memories, but what is something that as a result of your career is like kind of like a, holy shit, I can't believe this happened as a result of, this life I've chose for myself?
Oh my God, there's so many. I mean, when I bought my first house, I bought it with the intention of, like, okay, I can afford this, and if I ever lose everything, I can, maintain my life in Orange County. And since then, I've moved 3 times to, like, nicer and what I consider dream homes. So I mean, it happens all the time, but just the general life in every way, it's something I'm still not used to and don't take for granted. I mean, I live in my dream neighborhood with a family that I love and appreciate very much, working for my best friends, working with my best friends in music. It's like, that's all I did my whole life. I would just go to shows, and every show that was around Orange County, LA, IE, down here in SoCal, like, the fact that I get to work in this and be successful and, just wake up happy and wake up doing what I love. Not to say it's not stressful, not to say some days I want to kill myself with the amount of work I'm doing, but, there's just too many things to, like, be grateful for. But overall, it's just a general lifestyle. I get to live what I want, live where I want, doing what I want with those who I love. So, yeah, I don't know if that's specific enough.
No, I think it is. I mean, the fact that you put in there your dream home several times over, I think speaks to the fact that, it is right there. You were able to accomplish your dream as it even evolved several times.
Yeah, I never thought I'd buy a house, let alone, have, the one we have now in Newport Beach. So pretty thankful, and try to maintain grounded in that, and understanding that, like, granted it was a lot of hard work, but at the end of the day, like, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, I'm not saving the world. We're managing the careers of artists, and we've done all right for ourselves.
Right. And where can everyone find you?
I am at Biggie XXX on Instagram. That's pretty much where I hang out. I'm on Facebook somewhere, but I don't really mess with that all that much. But you can find me at Biggie XXX, Good Fight Management on Instagram. Yeah, thanks for having me on. It's awesome.
Yeah. When can we get that? When can we expect that new 18 Visions record?
Oh boy, they're ripping. They're renting tunes.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Or actually, your afternoon.
Thank you, man.
It's my evening. So that was my conversation with Biggie of Good Fight Entertainment, and I had a lot of fun with that. I think I kind of put a little bit of more expectation on what I thought that was going to be, and I was a little disappointed in myself. I didn't think I really pulled out a great conversation with him, and then when I went back to edit it and kind of get it all squared away for Dan to check out, I kind of did realize that there was actually quite a bit, and I guess the problem for me, and Dan, I bet you experience this quite a bit with listening to the variety of podcasts you do, is that you're so used to hearing other podcasts in preparation for, just in pleasure of the podcast you enjoy, but also in preparation maybe for an interview you're about to do, that like when you hear something that has been said on another show, or you don't hear like the person constantly like laughing like they have been with friends that they've had for like 20 years, you feel a bit of disappointment, like, I guess I failed. I didn't do that good. It's kind of funny because like I was talking to, and I mean, I already put this on Instagram, so fuck it, here's a spoiler, not really. Our 200th episode is going to be Chris Dudley from Under Oath, and Doc Coyle done raised the bar for me on that one, because like I knew that we had this, and then all of a sudden Doc Coyle was like, hey, I did a conversation with Chris Dudley from Under Oath, and blah blah blah, and it was like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I was like, oh fuck man, that was so good. Like I got so much cool information out of that I didn't know before, and god damn it, Doc. Actually, I've been making the joke I need to get a sticker made for Doc that says foil by Coyle.
That'd be pretty funny.
But no, like I ended up talking with Chris the other day, and you know, I thought I was going to get about 20 minutes with him, and we ended up talking for about just under an hour, and I really walked away feeling like I had a really good conversation that covered a lot of different topics. And it was funny because like I had just got done editing this conversation for Dan to listen to, so this was kind of really fresh in my mind. And so it's kind of funny how sometimes like the perception in the moment is that like maybe something isn't as good as you think it is, and then you get to step back for a little bit and then kind of really appreciate like like some of the cool things that were actually discussed in the moment after the fact.
Yeah, I think it turned out better than you were giving it credit for before you had gone back and listened to it. And I definitely, to go back to kind of what you were saying earlier, I definitely always feel like I failed if we don't seem like best friends at the end of the conversation, which is ridiculous, right? You're talking to somebody that you don't know on the phone. Like, you know, how does that translate? I think you get a little bit better with the in-person interviews. I think, you know, people are able to kind of get a vibe for you and stuff like that. But, you know, I just try not to worry about it too much as long as I've got good information coming out.
And that's the thing, too, that I think is kind of hard is, you know, like I said, we are kind of connoisseurs of this medium, and so therefore it's a little bit harder when you compare it unjustly to other shows. I mean, I don't know how many times, like, I would hit up Sumi and I'd be like, your interview was better. And it kind of sucks to say that because you're like, I want mine to be the best. I want someone to come to me and be like, oh, damn, man, you killed the game on that.
Well, yeah, you want to be the very best, like no one ever was.
I know. That's my competitive streak in me, though. So, like, I'm always just like, so-and-so did better. That sucks.
Yeah, I kind of try not to worry about that kind of stuff anymore. I just kind of try to do the best that I can and hope that it resonates with other people.
Yeah, and kind of speaking of resonating, too, and something I kind of had wished you were around for, I don't even know if we've talked about this since, you know, I sent you the episode as the conversation itself, but, you know, talking about where the state of hardcore and metal is, you know, like, at the time we had recorded this, you know, the Ghost Inside show had just happened, and you know, Have Heart had just reunited and, you know, played to, like, thousands and thousands of kids and so forth, and I know we kind of had talked about the Ghost Inside show ourselves on a couple episodes ago, but you know, to kind of get an insider's perspective of how they feel about the industry and like, does it seem like it's kind of on an upward swing? And, you know, it's kind of interesting for Biggie to be like, I feel like, I mean, yes, but like those are very like small examples. There's so many other bands and so many other territories and so many other things at play. So it's hard to say like, oh, absolutely, the Ghost Inside selling out, you know, a show where there was like probably at least 10,000 people there just to see them. That's an anomaly. It's not a whole tour doing 10,000 people a night.
Yeah, I think it is totally an anomaly. I agree with him because I think hardcore and metal now is kind of becoming an underground thing again. There's definitely, I mean, obviously there's still going to be huge bands like your Killswitch Engage or, you know, bands that have kind of made their way into the collective persona, but they've done that. They've kind of done that when the genres were ripe for the picking as far as popularity goes. And so I think when we're engulfed in it all the time, like we always are, it seems like it's very, very big. But I have kind of noticed perceptions changing, especially amongst young people, about what they look for as far as music goes. And a lot of the time, it's not heavy, it's not metal, it's not hardcore. Some of us are kind of from that generation where that's just what we've always listened to. So we kind of expect it to always be a viable thing. And I do see it in a lot of cases going underground. You know, like I went and saw Zayo just a couple weeks ago, and with Zayo being largely credited as one of the pioneer bands, we're still only playing to like 300-400 people, you know. And I granted they're not a tour machine band or anything like that, but maybe if they were, they'd have bigger turnouts. But I think the reality of it is that, you know, most of the people there were my age.
I think that's kind of an interesting thing. Like, I don't even actually know. I know I didn't say anything. So I had this like weird epiphany the other day while at the to do the interview with Chris Munderoth, but they're on tour with Korn and Alice in Chains. And I was telling a friend that I had with me, I go, this last month, if I told you who I saw recently, you would probably be like, what year is it? Because in the last month, I've seen Static X and Dope on tour together. I went and saw Nonpoint, and then now here I am seeing Korn. And it's like, and I'm going to see Papa Roach in a week. And it's like, what year is it?
Well, I think that anyway, just this past week especially, because everybody's like, holy shit, a new Tool. Holy shit, new Slipknot. Like, it's... And I understand because like those bands obviously have very rabid fan bases, but I was actually a little surprised about all of the recent like, oh my god, Tool's coming out with a new album and it's going to change music and all that stuff or whatever. And I can't help but be that fucking guy that's like, dude, there's already been like at least 30 or 40 amazing releases this year, but all you care about is the band that hasn't put out an album in like 10 or 12 years or some shit. Like, I get it, like, because I mean, obviously, I wait around for bands to put records out, or there's older, there's always, well, they're working on a new record right now, so whatever. But I think it's very indicative of that, like, a lot of the bands that we think are great may not necessarily be considered so until much later. Or in certain cases, like whenever they either reunite or they break up. It's one of those, like when a lot of these bands broke up or went on a hiatus, it's like, oh, you didn't realize how good you had it till it was gone.
I think that was the weird thing. I wasn't going to really touch on this until we did the Under Oath episode, but I'll touch on it now just because I think it's something that's been sticking with me the last couple of days. Is when talking with Chris, we kind of, and I didn't necessarily articulate this that well, I don't think, and I don't think I really had the full realization until I was watching the show. But it's like, that tour is such an interesting dichotomy of the last, like, almost 30 to 40 years of music. You have Alice in Chains, who came out in the late 80s, early 90s, along with the quote-unquote grunge scene. Their singer dies, they go away. Then they come back, stronger than ever. You have Korn, who comes out, basically are pioneers of the quote-unquote new metal scene, whether you're a Roach Coach fan or not. Will determine how you feel about at least the first record.
I'm a Roach Coach fan. They're just straight up wrong about that first record.
I agree. So it's one of those things where you look at what Korn's done, and then obviously they had their falling outs with Head and you know, David leaving and all this kind of stuff, and there's kind of this interesting finding themselves in the chaos of everything, only to kind of come back stronger than ever. All these, you know, almost 10 years later. Then you have Under Oath, who kind of pick up where, like, each band kind of picks up where the other one started leaving off. So it's like by the time Alice in Chains was weaning, Korn picks up, starts a new genre. By the time Korn starts to kind of, like, in that genre kind of starts to fall off, here comes screamo metalcore, and Under Oath's kind of the darlings of the hybrid of the two. Then, you know, they kind of changed their sound, and the scene kind of went away, and they broke up, and now you have all these people who I think all these fans who really appreciate what all three of those bands are doing, because they realize that at any time this isn't going to exist for various reasons. And then to have a new band in horror opening up, you kind of get that small glimpse into this chaotic oddball of all of these genres, kind of perfectly encapsulating everything that's presented in the evening, just in this fucking ferocious, like, energetic set that lasts like pretty much the entire time of you getting into the venue, probably grabbing your beer and or finding a seat, and then it's like, okay, they're done.
It's definitely a tour that was put together based on potential ticket sales.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it really, like, each one of those bands has the potential, depending on the city, to save the tour.
Yeah.
Not that Korn and Alice in Chains need saving, or even that Under Oath needs saving. It's just the idea that whatever the projections were for those three bands alone combined, somebody sitting back being like, "Oh my god, we did it! We fucking did it!"
Well, I was gonna say, like, the show is, I mean, it's a fucking shed, so I mean, it holds thousands, it was packed. Like, I stayed for about half a Korn set, and like at one point, Jonathan Davis was like, "Look at all you motherfuckers!" And I looked around when they like lit up the whole thing, and I was like, "Holy shit, there are a lot of people here." And knowing that it's like once you go over the hill, like there's, I mean, technically people can stand back there, but you can't see anything. But
right.
It's just one of those where it's like, Jesus Christ! Like, if you would have told me when I saw the band on the Untouchables album cycle playing to a half-filled arena with like Puddle of Mud and Dead Sea opening up, that it'd be like, yeah, this band's not gonna be around long, and if they are, they're definitely not playing. They're going to be playing clubs.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of funny. Korn kind of went through that. It's interesting with Korn how, you know, whenever they played in St. Louis a few years ago, it was right before they'd put out the Paradigm Shift and had to just rejoin the band. They were playing in clubs, and then they've kind of worked their way back up to being like Korn full potential realized. You know, and that's great. I mean, that's that. So there, it's kind of fun seeing guys like that used to have it all kind of still have to bust ass and work their way back up, you know, to where they're at.
I'm definitely going to tell you, the guitars on the newer stuff, holy shit.
I know.
Like, they played to really put it in perspective, and then we'll kind of wrap up this episode. They played Twisted Transistor, and the song has now been stuck in my head since I went to the show. And I don't even like that song. But, like, when you hear it live, like, it's heavier than it is on the record. And then there's, like, another song that they played that I didn't recognize, but I know it was, like, a somewhat newer song. But it's almost like, do you remember the first time you heard, like, Somebody Someone or, like, Falling Away From Me, like, how heavy the
I thought they were the heaviest fucking songs I'd ever heard in my life, yeah.
Right, and it's like, but in comparison, and there's some songs that are heavy on all the records leading up to that, but it's like, when you got to Issues and you heard, like, really pristine production on the record, and you're like, oh my god, this is disgustingly heavy. Like, I was listening to Issues and the song Wake Up, and I was like, dude, these guitars are punishing. And
totally.
To hear some of the newer stuff top the feeling I had when I still listen to that album now, where I'm like, these guitars are stupidly heavy. And then hearing, like, stuff where it's like, oh, Skrillex, you know, wee noises with Korn guitars or whatever. It's like, yeah, there's some of that because they have a keyboardist on stage doing all that shit. But it's like, the guitars and everything are stupidly loud. Like I leaned over to my friend and I was like, this is, like, Meshuggah-esque heavy. And, like, I don't think I've ever said that about Korn, like, being, like, that heavy in tone.
Well, yeah, I mean, they have always been that way. And, like, when I got into metalcore, you know, after nu metal wasn't cool anymore, you know, I definitely was like, oh, yeah, the bands I listen to are so much more brutal or whatever. But it's funny, I was listening to an interview with Micah from O Sleeper, and they were talking about, you know, how you everybody started off with Korn back in the day, and then you find bands that are heavier, and you can see them at smaller clubs, and you might get to meet the band after the show and stuff like that. He goes, but then he's like, I forgot all about Korn and Limp Bizkit and bands like that, and you know, he goes, but then I go back and I hear them, you know, 20 years later at a huge amphitheater, and I hear how loud they are and how the music just breathes, and how, yeah, actually it turns out some of those bands really are the heaviest bands in the world.
Absolutely. And kind of been wrapping up for real. Biggie, well, I mean, like he said in the interview, you can find him, he's most active on Instagram. Find him at BiggieXXX. If you would like to keep up with Good Fight Management, just simply go to goodfightmgmt.com. Keep up with all the things going on over there. You can actually see Biggie's roster. Really hoping for a new 18 Visions record. I know I keep seeing James posting studio snippets, so I'm hoping that's what it is. And because, god damn, that last record was so good. And I mean, I guess it's time for a new Eats It record. I keep seeing Jordan posting videos of him just riffing away, and I mean, even his like stuff that he probably is like, no, that was just practice. I'm just fucking around. It's still like people would probably pay like good money for those riffs.
Totally, sell them,
New, yeah,
new revenue, yeah.
And so follow Biggie there. Big thanks again to Biggie for taking the time to do this out of your just insanely stupidly busy schedule. And if you would like to keep up with Metal Nexus, you can find them at metalnexus.net, Facebook at Metal Nexus, Instagram at metal.nexus, and Twitter at metal_nexus. And Dan will tell you where he can be found online.
Who, me? Well, I could be found on Facebook under Daniel Terry. I can be found on Instagram starting next week. And I know, right? I'm taking the fucking leap. Old man on Instagram. But I can be found currently on Twitter at DiscussMetalDan, and you can even send me an email if you'd like to at discussmetaldan@gmail.com.
And if you would like to keep up with all things this podcast, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at BrewSpeakPod. Check us out on YouTube if that's a medium you enjoy more. We do have some in-person interviews that the video is there, so you can look at the lovely people as we are asking them odd questions. And if you would like to keep up with our show's sponsor, you can find them at thebeanbastard.com, Beanbastard on Facebook and Instagram, and Patreon. I mean, that's the thing we have.
Patreon, yeah. You can give us money. I love it.
Yeah, we have some sweet perks and some cool stuff along with those. So check it out at patreon.com/BrewSpeakPod. And I don't think I've actually talked about this on the show. I know we have posted on our socials. Sporadically, we keep popping into like the top 40 or top 60, top 50 on various podcast charts, and that shit's pretty cool. So I don't really know how to quantify how that happens, but if you're listening to this and you like this show and you're sharing it with friends or doing whatever, keep doing that. It's pretty fucking rad to get a notification that your podcast is in not only the top 100, but like the top 50 on anything. Even if it's in Kazakhstan, doesn't matter. I'll take all the top whatevers I can get, and it's really fucking cool. So much appreciated. If you feel like throwing us a rating or a review on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to this podcast, please do. It means a lot to us, and it's how we continue to grow and have people find us. So for the Brewtally Speaking Podcast, I am John.
And I'm Dan.
We will talk to you next time.